Act Serious.
Is that Act Serious?
It's going. Yep.
Okay. Well, hello, Ashlyn. My name's Amanda, and I'm going to be counseling you today. So what am I seeing you for today?
So I've been struggling a lot lately with like negative self-talk. And so it's been going on for about 6 months now, and like what it really consumes of is just like I can't say anything positive about myself. So like for instance, one of them is like I don't deserve anything good just because I just feel like I'm a horrible person and I've done all the things wrong. And I have like really struggled with the idea of grace, and I really don't understand why we have it or how the Lord does it. And that's something I've just been really fighting with. So it's been going for about 6 months. And so really the root of it is like really just like my head knows it's like the negatives, but my heart knows like the truth. And so it's trying to connect. That's been really hard, and I don't really know how to fix that. So that's why I'm in counseling.
Okay. So you talked about, you have a religious background, Christian.
Yes.
And so like that definitely sounds like that plays into your beliefs. And you talked about knowing what the truth is, but still not believing it. Can you elaborate for me on the truth?
Yeah. So, the truth as in like, so yes, like you said, I'm a Christian. But so like the Bible is obviously something that I read consistently. But, when I think of the truth, I mean, it's, in Psalms, he talks about, like, the Lord talks about, like, being created in my inmost being and knowing that I was fiercely and wonderfully made. And in my mind, I can't see that because I see, like, as myself, I'm like, oh, wow, like, you really are just the worst and you just can do nothing wrong, like, can't do anything right. So, that's just, like, really hard because my heart knows, like, in the passage, like, what the Lord says is true. And I believe, like, I know in my heart, I believe that, like, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, but it's just really hard to get past when those thoughts are very loud. And it's very much like, no, you don't deserve grace because grace is not given to you because you don't deserve it. So those thoughts are just constantly going.
So you don't deserve grace.
So, no. Because I feel like I don't, but it's hard because you say that because, like, I don't deserve grace because I am a sinner, but I know that I deserve, I know I can have grace because that's what the Lord does. That's the whole Bible. But just trying to really wrap my mind around that fact of, like, you know what, I deserve it because he gives it to us, but it's not deserved, and so it's very, yes.
Yeah, I think the word you're looking for, it's almost like it's just self-contradicting or just like a large paradox of God's given us this, but we don't deserve this, but he wants us to have it, but we don't deserve it. And so you're just stuck in this cycle of just trying to understand basically how do I deserve this?
Yeah. No, that was correct in every way, especially the self-contradicting thing, because it's very much my head and my heart are at war, because I'm like, I know the truth and I read the truth and I know the Lord's truth, but yeah, on the other hand, it's like, but here's this other side of like, well, technically I don't deserve grace because I'm not a good person. Boss, like, we're not all good people, so it's just, it's very self-contradicting. So
yeah. You talked some about this. This started 6 months ago, approximately. Tell me about what was going on then.
At the time, I was going through some really hard, just like depression, and had some really hard like friend situations going on, and like one of them was just I had like miscommunicated with one of my friends, and it really just kind of like crumbled, and so that's when I was like, wow. You are the worst. And so like that's really when it started of the negative self-talk of you don't deserve anything good because you did this horrible thing. Even though the person didn't feel that way, she just was confused on like how it happened, and everything's fine between us now, but like back then it was like, I was going through a really rough patch. And although like the depression part stopped, like I'm not depressed anymore, but the negative thoughts are still continuing.
So maybe I heard this wrong, but it's almost as if your friend's voice was in your mind telling you what you were doing wrong, but it wasn't your friend.
Yeah, definitely not like my friend, but I don't know if it's, I've never thought about it like that, but I don't know if it was really like my friend. I think it was more just like my inner critic, I guess, was more of like, yeah, it's kind of like not Satan, but like Satan. Like he was like, you don't deserve this. You are not the person that deserves any good. And so that's when it really like, that's more of the voice I heard. I never really thought about it as my friend, but it definitely could have been. But I don't think it is.
I know you'd said something about, after that, it was almost like you blamed yourself with what had happened. It was like you just kept hearing that voice. And I didn't know if you meant almost like your friend saying that to you, or you saying that to yourself.
Yeah. Definitely myself, which, like, I've never experienced this before, so I've been really confused on why it started and how it started, mostly just because, I've never experienced, like, I've never experienced it, and I don't know how to get past that and how to live healthy in that way. And like we talk about positive self-care and like positive talk about ourselves, but like when you're stuck in that cycle, it's really, really hard to break.
Yeah, it's almost like you see exactly what you want, and yet it's just like there's a wall right there. And nothing, no ladder, no anything. So you've mentioned multiple times with just like the voice in your head, and you said before it's your own, and you mentioned this last time, it's almost like Satan's voices in your head.
I think it's just like it's definitely like my voice, and I think it's like the inner critic, but part of it's also like Satan tends to do like he likes throwing some spiritual warfare in there, and so I feel like that's kind of what I was meaning, as in like when that comes up, it's like, well, like this is kind of difficult because I never experienced it. So I'm like, is this my voice, or is this like Satan trying to like tell me like not the truth? But like it's again like the head and heart war of like I know the truth and my heart believes that, but my head's very clogged with like other things.
Yeah, what are those other things?
Definitely just like the like more thoughts of I don't deserve to have friends, and it's very difficult to be good. So like for instance, like when I hurt that friend, I was like, you know what, like I'm just gonna make it up to everybody I can. So I literally just like I tried to be the best person I could be to everybody I met, because that in my mind was like a way that I could fix it, and I could fix what I did to her so then it would never happen again. And so I've just been caught in this cycle of like, well, I can be the best I can be to this person because I know I can, and I fixed what I did to her to other people, so it never will happen again.
So it's almost like this feeling of just like inadequacy, almost more so.
Yeah, it feels a lot of like self-sabotage, like very much like the like I deserve punishment, and so I'm going to punish myself in that way of like, you know what, I did her wrong, so now I'm going to just do everything I can to be the best of my ability and be perfect, because that's what I'm supposed to do. And that's like where the inner critic of like, that's more of like my voice saying I have to be perfect because I don't deserve grace, so then perfection's like the next best thing.
It's a hard cycle, isn't it?
Yep. It is a very hard cycle, especially when like not many people have ever like gone through this, and so it's really difficult to try to talk to somebody about it because they just don't understand. Or I've had a couple friends that are like, well, like grace is the whole thing of the Bible, like you should know that, and like well, now I don't feel comfortable telling them like that kind of thing. So a lot of times it's been just like, well, I'm just gonna do it myself and like in the dark and nobody knows about it. So that's why I'm in counseling, because I know I'm not the only person, but also it's really difficult to be the only person that's going through this and nobody understands.
Yes, definitely when it comes to anything with mental health or anything along those lines, it can be something that feels like you're going through alone because nobody's willing to talk about it, and it's not something you maybe see on the outside. So it can definitely feel isolating and feel like you're alone in any type of battle such as that. So it's nice that you came in and that you're taking that step because you are not alone in that.
Yeah, and I mean, even like as I mentioned, like with grace, I think in the church it's really hard also to talk about mental health because we're called to be not the best version of ourselves, but like we're called to love the Lord and to do what He says. And so I think it's really hard when mental health does come up and we don't know how to work with it. And so then that thought of like, well, like obviously you don't deserve it because nobody knows what you're going through. And so it's like, well, what's the point? And so that's kind of where I think a lot of it also started of, well, nobody knows what, like you said, like nobody ever talks about mental health. And it's an inward battle. Like, if you looked at me on the outside, like you couldn't tell, like,
yeah,
like I'm not going through anything, but like inwardly I am.
Yes.
And so it's just it's a big fight that not a lot of people know about or can see because they don't ask. Or, we can hide a mask of, oh yeah, I'm fine. Like I look great on the outside, but like on the inside, it's like I'm in the cycle that you said, like the deadly cycle that continues to be negative self-talk.
Yeah. Just again, it's just stuck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have never found a way to get out of that. And I mean, I've like tried to talk to people about it, and a lot of the times, what they say is like, "Oh, it'll pass," because that's what time does, and time helps everything. But really, like, it's been 6 months. Like, this is a hard thing, and I don't want to continue going through it because it's not easy, and it hurts a lot of people around me because I am hurting them more than I'm helping them because I'm trying to be somebody I'm not. So.
It almost sounds like it's kind of a give and take of people are hurting you by not understanding, but you also feel like you're hurting them because they don't understand.
Yeah. And it's hard because they don't get it, and a lot of times people never have struggled with negative self-talk, or if they have, it's like another part to another thing, and so many times it's like I feel like I'm just alone.
Yeah. So you said you have though tried talking to some of your friends specifically about this.
Yeah, I mean, when people ask like, "Are you like how are you?" Like, I'm obviously gonna say I'm good, but there's like a few close like really good friends of mine that I've like opened up of like I don't really know what's going on and I don't really know how I feel. I definitely don't feel like myself because the version of myself that I am right now is not who I normally am, and so this is very new to me. But talking with them, they still don't understand because they've never experienced it, and it's not a bad thing. It's not like bad that they don't know. It's just more difficult talking to them because I feel like if I say anything, they can't really help because they don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to understand when you haven't been through it, just regardless of what the situation is, let alone anything dealing with mental health or negative talks. It's a road that you can look from the outside and it's very different to actually be in that position. It can just almost feel diminishing for you when you're trying to tell them and they just don't understand.
Yeah, I like that you said diminishing because I definitely feel like an outcast of no one gets it, and so why would I talk about it? And kind of like not like punishment, but like definitely like that aspect of like, well, what's the point of me going through this because nobody's like I where I grew up was a church that was very big, but it was the season will pass and you'll get to tell somebody about it and that'll help them when they grow up. Yeah. But I'm like currently, how is this going to help anybody? Because I don't even like nobody I've even talked to is like struggling with this. So it's just kind of hard to have that mindset of like, you know what, like this will help. But right now I can't see that and I don't believe it. And so that's really difficult to have that positive outlook of, I'm going to get better. But when I'm in that cycle, it's really hard not to think that way.
Yeah. It's hard to be in a cycle like that in general, but you've got a negative cycle of negative self-thought and not even a positive outlet. Yeah. And it just goes back to that whole point of you don't feel like you have the ability to talk to others about it, or that there's that open door. It's just like every door is just closed, or you're in a room with no doors.
Yeah, definitely feel like the room with no doors, and I can't escape. And like some nights are really hard because like my thoughts will just go and I can't stop them and I don't know how to stop them. And it's kind of just like, well, I guess I'll just let them go until I can fall asleep or something. And so definitely feel like I'm in a room has no even windows.
Yeah.
Like I can't even look outside. Like I literally am just looking like inside
Yeah.
of myself.
Yeah. So you said that you just can't stop them. What do you do when you're in those situations? How do you try to stop those thoughts in the past?
Usually either I'll shut down and I just like won't talk to anybody. Or like my best friend is someone I'll talk to, and so I'll just be like, this is like I will literally tell her everything that's going like I will tell her like this is the thought that I'm having and this is why I'm having it, as in like this is how I'm feeling. And it could be like 15 thoughts, and I literally just tell her like everything. And like most of the time, like on a regular basis, lately at least, it's like there's like 30 negative thoughts a day, like at least. That's like the minimum. And so like she'll get random texts sometimes of like, this is how I feel. Like I feel like a horrible person and this is why. And so at least I have someone I can talk to about it. She doesn't understand, but she's at least there that she's like, okay, you can tell me like this is safe, but also really difficult because it's still like, I hate being in this position because nobody gets it.
Yeah. It's hard to be in, and it sounds like you hate talking to her about it. It's almost like you resent that you have to talk to her about it, that you're almost burdening her.
Yeah, definitely feels like I'm burdening her, but also I entrust her with that though because she is my best friend, and I feel like it's okay that she can understand and hear what I'm doing because she knows me on a personal. She doesn't. I mean, obviously, she's never been in the footsteps that I am, but she's still at least trying to understand what I'm going through by listening to me and just being there to let me like rant practically of what's going on. And it's not just like in my head and constantly just like absorbing and thinking about all I can. And,
it's great to have that outlet, to have a friend that can listen, even if they don't completely understand, just to be able to have that safety net.
Definitely, safety net's a good word for it. Especially with like not having a lot of people on campus that I don't know, mental health is kind of hard to talk about, and like we've talked about before. But you know, she's someone I can just text in the middle of the day if I'm in class and I'm like I'm not okay, like this is what's happening, and we'll figure it out later, kind of thing. Or usually it happens like mostly at nighttime when I'm alone. Which is like, oh, great timing because
it's just
I'm
you and your
alone.
thoughts.
Yep, it's just me and my thoughts, which is great. But she at least is able to, you know, listen, and I don't have to feel like I'm going in a cycle of like spiraling down into like a drain, and there's no end to it.
So it sounds like having that friend definitely provides a great outlet, but when you're by yourself, it's different.
Yeah, but it's hard because when you're alone, nothing's stopping you. And so it's like, oh, I can let my thoughts go. And then, which could be a great thing, because I know people that are like, I need that alone time to like let my thoughts go. But I don't like being alone because I feel like my thoughts are going to go everywhere. And so then I'm like, well, why do I want to be here? And so then that's when I like try to keep myself busy, because I'm like, if I can be busy, then I'm not going to have to worry about what my thoughts are thinking, what I'm thinking. Like I can just shove them down and go on with my life, which is not healthy. But I recognize that. But I don't know, I'm in survival mode, and so that's what's keeping me going right now, is just like if I can just push him down for a while, like I can go continue to live the life I want to.
The second you stop swimming, you're going to sink.
Yeah, and pretty much, I mean, same with the drain thing of like, there's no, like I can't pull out. Like there's nothing that I can stop myself from doing. And so, yeah, like you said, I'm gonna drown. Like I'm just gonna, if I stop fighting for it, I'm not gonna die, but like the feeling of like I'm gonna lose control. So
yeah, scared you're gonna lose control, that it's gonna overwhelm you.
I'm a big control person. I like to know what's happening. I like to be able to control something. And so, especially when it comes to my thoughts, controlling my thoughts is really hard because I feel like I'm not, like I said before, I feel like I'm not myself. And so I feel like I'm not being able to like, not necessarily drive my thoughts, but I can't control what I'm thinking. And that scares me because I like to be in control at least of something. And to not being in control, that's really difficult.
Yeah. especially if you like to control things, to not, of all things, to be able to control your own thoughts.
It's hard, and you know, again, like nobody talks about it, so it's like more difficult because nobody talks about it. But
Yeah.
I need. Yeah, I feel grounded when that's a good word for it. I feel grounded when I am able to control that, like what I'm thinking, and I feel like I'm not in survival mode as much, or I feel like I can breathe, and I haven't been able to feel like I can breathe in a while.
Sorry, doing a time check.
Yep.
Well, Ashlyn, we are at our time for today. I appreciate you just open up and sharing. Is it your first time at counseling? I didn't
It
even
is.
ask.
Yes,
so
it
I know
is.
that's kind of scary, but just be talking to a stranger. But I appreciate you opening up, just getting to talk a little bit about just those feelings, those negative self-thoughts, and that as we continue to go through, we'll continue to just talk through and help you to work through those.
Yeah. Well,
So
thank
look forward
you
to
for
seeing
listening.
you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.
Oh, didn't mean to spell.
Oh.
Good job, guys.
Oh my
Thank
goodness, I'm
you.
brain dead.